Hi there, Holly Sin here with the Heart Mind podcast that's coming at you soon to feed your mind, body, spirit with thoughts and practices to help you embody and create that life that you are truly seeking. And I work with individuals. I have and continue to do one on one yoga and breathwork psychotherapy. I also am going to come out with a group therapy program to help start shift your relationships from the inside out. Stay tuned, subscribe, lots of free content and more guests coming. And here's my first public speaking event about my own story and one of my pillars, forgiveness, making forgiveness a spiritual practice.
I want to thank you again for having me and exploring this critical question. Why, but maybe more importantly, how can we start to make forgiveness a spiritual practice? It's a spiritual practice that we endeavor in. So I'm going to ask, and maybe you look around the room as you answer this too, who in this room has been wounded? Maybe take a deep breath and say, yes, or so. All of us? Yes. Yes. And who in this room has consciously or unconsciously wounded someone else? If so, say yes. Yes. And this is why. This is why we need to forgive. This is the human condition, relating to one another. We wound each other, and we forgive, and we find love again. We suffer at the hands of these relationships, and to also environment, human environment. So, to just give a little bit of a nutshell of my story, to help you understand how I came to forgiveness, and why it was so vital to me, and how I know it so deeply. Like many of you, I experienced chronic, complex childhood trauma. And this came into reality for me and into my consciousness pretty early in life when I, at 8 years old, was taken to the police department in Fort Worth, Texas, and testified against my grandfather, who was also our Baptist preacher. And I testified that he had continuously sexually abused me and my family. This wound cut twice, of course. It cut in my family and in my ancestry. Right? I had to deal with that. But also in faith methods. How do I begin to have faith again? How do I begin to practice faith again? There was also this razor-sharp edge of division. There was all the wounds of the community and of the sexual abuse, of course. But then, after testifying, we were isolated from the community. And he was never charged or anything like that. But the isolation was another huge wound, being torn from a family that ultimately I loved. So then, at 8 years old, I knew consciously I had to start doing something to get out of this, what felt like to me, a mental pit of hell. Right? And I know we've all been there for different reasons. That pit of hell, how do I get out of it? So, throughout my youth, but especially in my teens, I started to go to my room, and I would stretch, and I would breathe, and I would strengthen. I was a little bit of an athlete too, but I would do this on my own. And what I was finding was yoga. I didn't know it. I didn't have any formal training. Nothing like that. Which gave me this embodied knowledge of this human technology that's our birthright to find refuge. Because there was trauma still happening in my teenage years too. And so that was really important for me to know that I have something I can tap into. And that's not to say I don't want to honor thousands of years of Indian culture that's contributed to the human psycho-spiritual evolution, but I also want to stress it's your birthright. You don't have to go learn anything. It's here inside of us. You can find it. I did go to formal training eventually at 18. I went to a Buddhist community, a Tibetan Buddhist community, and I meditated and I started to tap into practices. And the big teacher that I had through her writings was Sharon Salzberg. And she wrote Loving Kindness, and this book changed my life. It gave me a lot of practices to do, which one we're going to hopefully do today. And she says, to offer our hearts in faith means recognizing that our hearts are worth something. Whew. I gotta believe I'm worth something. Okay. To offer our hearts in faith, to go into faith, practice, and to have faith, it means that we're recognizing that our hearts are worth something. And we ourselves, she continues, in our deepest nature, are of value. This was big for me. She also taught a lot on forgiveness. In my early 20s, though, I started to think, okay, I need to get more in my body. I was starting to have some PTSD symptoms in my body. And so I went to Feminine Tantra, Hatha Yoga. And I just like we did with the vibrations, who taught me these things. Bring them in the room. Melissa Spamer, Camila Figueroa, and Sophia Arahoa. And I say that because they also have indigenous ties. It's not just Indian ties, but indigenous ties. And they taught me how to seek answers in my body and forgiveness in my body, which is where my mind lives too, I know now. It's in my body. It's in the heart. And I started to think of the heart, mind, rather than often when we talk about the mind, we point here. So again, now I'm blessed. Through this adventure of going into the depths of that hell and coming out, I'm able to support women with yoga, embodiment, breath work. And I share this story with you just to show what forgiveness is possible. And there's a little bit more as I go into forgiveness, but that's the reason that we go into the trauma, is to try to start to reshape it. And so I want to talk to you about the heart a bit more in yoga philosophy. The heart in yoga is called anahata. It's an energy center that's here, and it includes the physical parts of yourself, the hands, the arms, but it's also a mental part of yourself, the heart-mind. And its big theme is relationship and forgiveness. Because you can't have really relationships without forgiveness. As we've just talked about, we wound each other. It's often depicted by the hexagram, and hopefully maybe some of you've got this hexagram with your program, but it's okay if not, you'll get it on the way out. The hexagram is seen in a lot of spiritual faiths, right? And it symbolizes some real beauty in faith. And I started to look at the anahata. It means unstruck, so unwounded. But it's also is the beginning of the word. It's negating. Nahata is to bathe or to cleanse. So it's the part of ourselves that doesn't need to be cleansed, that doesn't need bathing or cleansing. That's that part when we sing right and wrong, like we're beyond that field. That's the anahata. We don't need to be cleansed because there's nothing wrong with us. So we do have to do some practices because we are embodied, and to get to that place, right? We feel that we come to these communities, or we have to do our inner work. And so through the years of my studies, I started to look at this hexagram for the anahata and see how the different relationships can relate to this hexagram. And there's 7 main relationships usually we need to forgive. Okay? And I'm going to talk about mother. That's a big one for some of us. But it's also any authority figure that's feminine. Aunts, grandma, maybe it was a teacher. Yeah. Feminine authority figures. And then on the other side, the right side, there's the father. Same thing. Literal father, but also authority figures. Hello, government. Yeah, Yeah, that feels patriarchal at times. Yeah. And then there's the sister, which is on the bottom left. This is your literal sister, maybe, if you have one, but also peers. Some people that you relate to as your sister. And brother, masculine. And then the downward arrow is going towards the child. And that's literal children. I have two. I know there's many of you in the room that have literal children, biological children. But it's also children that we maybe take care of in the community. Anything we have guardianship over, pets. And then going upward is the divine. So that's our relationship with whatever you want to call the divine. And the environment, nature, God. And then the very middle is the self. And that's also a big relationship. And what happens is, with these wounds that we were talking about, it kind of blocks the ability to start to see or feel the uncleansed self. So that wound creates a gnarly, state for your mind, and you kind of get fixated in the wound. So we have to go in with forgiveness. That's the elixir, and clean that wound, so then we can start to see inside. Like we clean the windows to see the sun. We clean our windshield to be able to see and drive clearly. Same thing, we're not driving clearly because the wound is blocking us. We're not able to drive from that heart-centered place, that uncleansed place. I have 4 points on forgiveness that I've learned I'm going to share. And some of them you've heard before. But the biggest one is forgiveness is not a one-time action. So it's not that you just do it and it's over and it's done, which I felt a lot in my life that, okay, I forgave you, now that's over. No. You have to keep practicing it. The other second one is forgiveness is a vibration. You felt the vibration of the Om. It's a frequency that you can access. But it's not going to be, the action alone is not going to create the forgiveness. You have to bathe in that frequency. So it's like when you force meditation and you're trying to force it, okay, I'm going to forgive this person, I'm going to do it. I can't do that. You gotta let it be on you. You gotta let it work on you. There's surrender. And then the third one is really important too, the ingredients for forgiveness. How to start to cobble some things together to help that vibration come up. Compassion. I think in this room a lot of people know compassion and have exercised compassion, but starting to let your heart, Sharon Salzberg says, stir at the suffering of someone else. And then vulnerability. Often we describe this as the ability to be wounded. Yes, we've talked about that, but I want to go one step further, and our ability to share and see our wounds. Whew. That's vulnerable. We know when we sit next to someone and they share us that vulnerable story, we see it. We see that vulnerability. And the last one, which is really important, the ingredients, so compassion, vulnerability, accountability. Being accountable. Now, of course, you heard my story. He was never accounted for, nor were the people complicit. But so I'm going to go a step deeper. You can't have control over all the time community's accountability. We feel that helplessness with our government now, too. But the accountability can happen within you, accounting for the cost. You step into that and account for the cost of the wound. Account for your feelings. Really like an accounting of what has happened and what the fallout of that is. And you sitting in that and accounting for that. And then from there, repair and changes. Creating boundaries. Whatever is needed, the changes that are needed. And repair. Maybe that is just with you. For me, it has been. That's been a bit of the journey. Sharon Salzberg says, forgiveness that is insincere, forced, or premature is more psychologically damaging than authentic bitterness and rage. show me your rage. I'd rather see that. The very last one, forgiveness can only be given by you for you. That's what I've been kind of hinting at. It can only be given by you for you. It's a gift for yourself. There's a story attached to this. One of my aunts, who was the target of my ire when I was growing up because she was so complicit in suppressing what had happened, I would just curse her at night. And I would think, she's going about her life, she's going about her Christian way. You know? So angry. And I would do my forgiveness practice on her, and at 20, I met with her and I said, she still didn't believe me. I said, just keep your granddaughters away from him, please. And she said, that planted a seed. 20 years later, she messaged me, 20 years later, and said, can I talk to you? I've been doing some healing. It took me 6 months, but I decided to. And we met for 2 big sessions, face to face. And she told me, through moving away from her family, she had come to terms with what she had done with her own trauma. And she apologized for what she had done, that she had put my grandfather over my own needs and care. This left me with 3 things. All the work I did for forgiveness those 20 years, I landed in that spot and I was able to receive it. I wasn't angry. I was able to receive her apology. But here's the other kicker. I really felt this really truly. I didn't need it anymore. I didn't need that. Wow, okay. And the last thing was when she was telling me about her life a little bit, because I was asking, I realized what all she had lost. She said because she hadn't done the work, she wasn't present with her children. She could not form an adult relationship till now, a friendship, for 20 years, outside of the family. And I realized with compassion, oh, you never know what someone else is going through. You never know. All right. So, I think you understand why we forgive, and how we forgive is we drop into our heart minds, and we do this accountability and vulnerability. So I'm going to invite you to do it today. Okay, so we're going to go into a very short practice. If you're willing, go into your hearts, maybe drop into your hearts, take your hand there, just take a deep breath. I'm going to ask you to go to one of these relationships. Maybe it's with the divine, maybe it's with your inner child, maybe it's a little bit more on the surface, maybe it's a friend, but maybe there's a wound here that has been blocking your way to drive clearly through life. I'm just going to invite you to maybe narrow in on one and notice as you breathe how you feel your body responding. Maybe accounting for any grief, pain, anger, sadness. You can just sit there and account and be vulnerable with yourself and offer, if you would like, to, in a moment, when I ring a bell, get up. And I want you to think of just a sentence. I am really deeply in agony about my relationship with my mother, or I said something mean to my dog today, whatever that might be. And it's just one sentence, maybe 2, but keep it very short. And then if you would like to share it with someone else, you stand up, you find a partner, you just say that one sentence, and then the partner listens actively, and they just say, thank you, that's it. And then flip it. That's all we're doing. And you can just sit with yourself, keep breathing, take deep inhales, live in your heart, stay in your heart. If you would like to share with someone else, please, when I ring the bell, find someone. Notice your gut. Notice your toes. And thank you. Staying there if you can. I know it's hard. I see some of you already popping out. If you can stay in there for a moment with that relationship you chose or that wound you chose, and say the chant, may whoever that person is, may they, you can say their name, mom, or whatever it is, may they be happy, healthy, and free. 2 or 3 times, may they be happy, healthy, and free, aloud or in yourself. May they happy, happy, healthy, and free. And yourself. May I be happy, healthy, and free. That's next. May I be happy, healthy, and free. Saying it aloud or to yourself 2 or 3 times. And all that can be today is forgiven. Saying that aloud or to yourself a few times. All that can be today is forgiven. I can't thank you enough for your practice, really coming back when you're ready. Can't thank you enough for holding me tenderly today and letting me do the same for you. If you had any questions, I'm here. With all my love.
Thank you, Holly Sin. Many of you might not know, but Holly came halfway around the world to be here. Thank you, and her family. It's so great to have her back. Now is the time to